Red flags, porn addiction, and monkey branching. That's the theme of today's video. And to tie this all together, I have a case study that explains exactly what happens when these issues are present and how it leads to the death of a relationship. In this particular email, this subscriber is a 27-year-old guy from Belgium, and his ex-girlfriend was a 24-year-old from Thailand, and they were together for 3 years. And she monkey branched on him in the end and dumped him, stone cold. And he can't seem to figure out exactly why she did that, even though the signs are evident to me. I also had a call with him, so I have even more information that I can touch on throughout the video. And it's a very good case study that you can all learn from. If you're in a relationship and these issues are happening, you know when to put a stop to it or walk away. And for those of you who are single, this is going to help you raise your standards so you don't even get into a situation like this in the first place. And also, Happy New Year to all of you. This is the first case study of 2024. And I know I often keep the subscriber's name private as per their request, and I use Jimmy as an alias, as a fake name. But in this case, this guy wants me to use his real name as he wants his friends and family to truly know that he really sent in the case study because he wants his loved ones to watch the video. So shout out to you, Niels. Thank you for having the courage to write in and give a very honest, descriptive email about your situation. It's definitely going to help a lot of men and women watching. So with that said, let's dive right into it. So he starts off by stating he's 27, she's 24. He met her on a Thai dating app. Going into her background, he says that she was from a small village. Her dad was a mayor and her mother was a teacher. Those seem like, good roles. She was raised in decent values, although her dad was a classic avoidant. He's referring to an emotional attachment, the style by which the father would communicate and relate to others. She'd tell me he would leave the room at the slightest disagreement, whether it was with her mother or with her. He would not agree or do when they wouldn't agree or do something he would want. He would walk away or ignore them. Sometimes he would live and sleep in his van or at the back of the house for weeks if the mother disrespected him too much. But nonetheless, he kept financially supporting them and guiding them as a father. And I sensed that the mother pulled most of the strings here. Well, you said she was raised with decent values. Those do not look like decent values to me. Her father shows a lot of weakness, low self-esteem, and he shows that for a man who's a mayor in a position of authority, he doesn't even know how to lead in his own home. And that's why the Bible tells us that before you choose a position of authority in society, you need to be a husband and father. Because if you can't lead a wife first, how are you going to raise your kids? Where a lot of people go wrong is they want to go straight to being a mother or a father without being a husband or wife first. There's an order, there's structure that works. When you get husbandship and fatherhood right, then you can be a leader in society because you've got your home life in order. I'd even question what sort of a job is he doing as a mayor if he comes home and that's how he handles with his wife and kids. He just goes cold and walks away. That's not masculine. That's not direct. There's no leadership there. There's no honor there. Those aren't good values. And you said that the mother pulled all the strings. So this is her background. Now, most people don't grow and they don't develop as a person. So they stay exactly how screwed up the parents were, which is why it is always important to look at the upbringing. Unless the woman tells you, or the ladies listening, unless a guy tells you, you see that it's very clear in their words and actions that they've grown and that they have learned from their parents' mistakes and they don't want to be like that, and it's evident in their actions, perfect. But if you see they have a screwed up background, a screwed up childhood, and they start to show similar traits as the parents, it means they probably really haven't matured or taken accountability for their own life yet. Something to look out for. But again, you don't want to constrict a woman to, it's always childhood trauma. There's plenty of girls who have grown up in really bad homes and they turn out to be amazing women because they learn from their parents' mistakes, right? Past the age of 20, 25, 30 plus, you're not a victim anymore of your parents' wrongdoings. You have a choice to be different and better. So that's the background of his ex-girlfriend. And he said for the first 5 to 6 months, they chatted, no arguments. That's usually how it starts. Everything's always good at the beginning. Remember, most people are on good behavior at the beginning of courtship and dating. Only if they're telling the truth and they really are who they say they are, is their behavior going to align with how it was at the beginning. Which is why you always have to vet and assess for chemistry and compatibility. I say this often in my videos because repetition is the mother of all skill, and you guys need to understand this is a fundamental. This is how you build the relationship from ground up. If there is no mutual genuine desire, and there's no mutual shared values, belief system, faith, culture, and interests, you can't relate and bond. And if you sprinkle on red flags, you or her are disqualified of a lifelong commitment until you fix those problems. Do with that information with what you will. Watch my previous videos and you'll understand more. So it starts off good, right? 5 to 6 months, no arguments, things are great. He said they have the same interests, web development, wanting a stable, calm life, a small rural home with animals, traveling, having at least 3 kids. She was finishing her bachelor degree in front-end development, and I was full-time trading at this time. That's great, but there are still many more values you can discuss. Faith, politics, culture. Those things impact relationships a lot. Proper gender roles. Are you really masculine? Is she truly feminine? Are there any wounds there that can be fixed? Niels says that he started to lose a lot of money in the beginning of the relationship, but she didn't care. She always encouraged me and saw I knew what I talked about because she trusted in my confidence for a future outlook. Now this here is key. Confidence is really important because your woman trusts you. She wants to rely on you. Even if there's hardships or difficulties, if you display confidence, she'll follow you. It's when guys start showing weakness over time. And I made a video about this recently, right? Weak behavior turns women off. It's not a problem if you go through difficulties or hardships, but she wants to see you as her man. Step up, take accountability, take action, try and do something to pull yourself out of the hole, and then she will be by your side. Because a good woman is going to try initially, but if she sees you're in the dirt rolling around and you're just crying about it and you're not doing anything, eventually she just can't help you. And she loses interest. She's just not going to feel safe around you. But so far so good. You went through some hardships and she still trusted you. She and her parents wanted me to visit them in Thailand, but I always had a form of anxiety, especially plane anxiety for long flights. I never flew more than 3 hours for this reason. Well, that's a big mistake on your end, anxiety or not. A respectful thing to do, especially if it's long distance like that, you go meet her parents. And if a girl wants you to meet her parents, it's usually a good sign, is it not? If I was a father, which not for a few years, but when I am a father, if I had a daughter and she meets a guy and he can't even come and meet me or my wife, he can't date my daughter anymore because that guy doesn't have the courage to come say hello to me. There's something off there. So you have to look at it from that perspective. You would have made a very good impression if you'd come to see the parents straight away. But he said they both agreed to meet on holiday in Turkey, so they met halfway. He said, we had our first trip in Turkey. You took her there, a 4-week trip. He said our time together was amazing, romantic. But on the other hand, I had my first panic attack ever. She was always sweet, comforting him, warm, understanding. Those are all good things. And she was always comforting him. He says, during the entire trip, we only had sex 2 or 3 times. And my brain had been too damaged from pornography to always want, hopefully I don't get banned for saying this on YouTube, to always want oral, and I'd never really returned the favor for her, which was egotistical on my end. I also had problems being energetic due to this panic disorder. Since she was always open to do sexual favors for me, I didn't think much of it. And I was just happy that my girl followed me in my needs. Or you go to a relationship to give. And you go to give your love. You give and you receive. But if all you do is take, that's not love, that's lust. And obviously, this guy, Niels, has a very serious problem with porn addiction. I spoke with him on the call, and he also admits that he has a problem with having a superiority complex, wanting to get back, wanting, not revenge, but he always wants to feel better than the other person. So you're getting into power plays, you're getting into manipulation, which is not love. That's degenerate, and it will always lead to your relationships failing because it's not love. So here you have this girl giving you all these favors, and look, for those watching, Niels is obviously not a Christian. He doesn't have the same values as most of my viewers do. But he can grow, he can learn. And like you said, pornography did a lot of damage to his brain. And more of this is going to come out in the video. Continuing on, she got sick for a couple of days. Then he took care of her, brought her food, slept, cuddled with her, brought her medication. And, seemed like her interest was raising. She was taking cute pictures of them holding hands, all this stuff. And he says that he felt so in love and could see she was obsessed about him. Again, a lot of this is coming from limerence, infatuation, which again is a lot of it is rooted in lust. There's not really much here of you truly getting to know her on a deep, intimate level. Her fears, her wants, her needs, who she is, what she really wants, and why. The reason why I'm saying this is because I've spoken with him, and he told me that throughout their entire relationship, whenever he tried to have a deep conversation, she'd always hold back. She couldn't open up to him. On one hand, it tells me that he doesn't know how to truly open a woman up emotionally, get her to talk, get her to connect, get her to bond. And on a second hand, it shows me that he's overlooking a very dangerous red flag. A woman that loves you, she's going to want to talk about deep topics with you. She's going to want to connect with you. And if she's not, there's something emotionally blocking her. It's either a lack of genuine desire. It's either you have done or said something, either consistently or something specific that's so impactful and painful that she's closed off, and it's up to you to open her back up, which again, because of your knowledge gap, you didn't do, which pushed her away even more. Or she just has deep emotional wounds which are preventing her from showing up and being open. She's got skeletons in the closet, things to hide, which are hindering her ability to connect. And that's not someone you want to work on. Because again, you find a wife. You don't build a wife or make a wife. And it goes back to her father, doesn't it? From her background we heard at the beginning. What does the dad do? When the mum or the daughter doesn't do what he wants, he goes quiet and just walks off and ignores it. So she learned that behavioral trait from the father. When things don't go my way or I don't know how to communicate, I'm just going to shut up and walk away, and I'll come back a few hours later as if nothing happened. And the problem in a relationship, when one person is holding back, whether it's 1%, 5%, or 10% of their love, of their affection, and they sweep it under the rug, all of that crap starts to accumulate and it starts to build up to the point where you can't ignore it anymore and they just burst. And then you can't ignore the elephant in the room. In a relationship, you have to have open, honest communication. You have to constantly keep each other up to date emotionally. You have to be vulnerable and share everything with each other. Think of it like updating your phone, okay? Whether you have an iPhone or an Android, there's updates, right? For the apps you have, there's software updates. What happens if you didn't update or upgrade your software for 6 months or a year? Your phone would start to glitch. There will be problems, right? How do you fix that? You update it. It's the same thing in the relationship. This is where misunderstandings start to happen. Maybe arguments, unmet needs. There's even more holding back. There's more problems, lack of communication, lack of intimacy. Okay, there's blockers here. You need to talk. You need to communicate. You need to share everything and get the other person to do the same. And you can try a few times. And if they're not willing to, and you're not married, probably best to just walk away. This is where most men go wrong. You got a girl in your life, she's treating you well, she's not going anywhere. And you don't court her, you don't romance her, nothing. As her interest drops, the guy's too blind to it because he's focused on himself. So again, it's all well, good and dandy that she's obsessed with you at the beginning. But is she obsessed with you because she's gotten to know you and it's safe to open up to you? Or there's something else going on? Is it just lust and limerence? And when I did speak to Niels, he told me that he didn't really desire her that much. She was like a 7 out of 10. So it's not specifically a 10 out of 10 for him. You get what you are. And if you're holding back, what are the chances that she didn't see you that way? Especially since she cheated on you. A woman that only has eyes for you wants you. This is what I talk about it a lot with my videos on genuine desire, physical attraction. You can't settle there. If you're going to share your life with a woman, you have to mutually see each other as a 10 out of 10. You've got to have that. You've got to have that desire. Because if you think she's a 6 or a 7, your eyes might wander. But if you think she's a 10 out of 10, you're locked in. And vice versa. It goes both ways. Continuing on with the email. He says his depression got worse. And a few months later, due to the FTX collapse, he lost most of his trading funds, which was the equivalent of the value of a house in November of 2022. Yeah, that's a lot of damage. And yeah, a lot of financial stress can cause other problems. So he has anxiety, he has a lot of stress, he has depression, he has all these problems, and which is going to cause him to go back to survival mode. He's in such an unhealthy state with all these anxiety attacks he's having that he's not in a place to really look at what's going on with her. And when you're broken down like that, you don't even have much love to give, let alone receive, because you're unhealthy, you're sick, you have stress, you have problems going on. And when this happens to a lot of men, they don't know how to prioritize the relationship, right? He said, my panic attacks got worse, and I even got them at home. I couldn't sleep, and I developed terrible daily insomnia. But she always stuck with me and comforted me and was always available at the time. But then on our next trip, Christmas 2022, she came to Belgium to meet my family and stayed here for a couple of weeks. My depression and anxiety were at the peak here, as the total collapse of my funds was just a month ago. And I couldn't pick her up at the airport, but there's a train station, so I told her to take that to my home city. And due to the delays, she had to go to another city. And it was very hectic during the communication and my mental state, but I picked her up in a nearby city, even though she had to wait all that time at a local bar with her baggage. And I realized how horrible this must feel to her after flying over 15 hours to meet me, and she was all alone. He said, I guess it's also hard for her to understand how a person feels after months of barely any sleep and daily panic attacks. Well, ultimately, sure, you had those panic attacks, but are you a man or are you the woman in the relationship? You still have to step up, you still have to man up. Leaving her alone, telling her to, take the train and that. If you really can't, get someone you trust to come pick her up. Maybe your parents, a close relative or something like that. Because that there is not masculine behavior. Men lead, protect and provide. That's not protecting her physically or emotionally if she's out there alone. You have to plan ahead for these things and protect her accordingly. So you're not leading, you're not really being direct there. And obviously your health affects all of this, which I understand. But at the end of the day, look how you're making her feel. Look how you're affecting her. Anyways, he says there was mutual understanding and we went to my place by car. He said I drove, and then I took her to all different places. I drove her to Luxembourg, Netherlands, Germany. We visited castles, drove at night, which we both loved. We went to my favorite spa and we bonded so deeply together, laying by the fire, having deepest talks about our lives and future. And during the entire period, I was on 1 to 2 hours of sleep a day. And if I felt a panic attack coming, she would be ready with my medication to give to me. I mean, if you're in a state like that, that's when you just go to the hospital and you stay there, you get checked out. Because if you're having 1 to 2 hours of sleep a day, you're on medication, your testosterone levels are going to fall, your metabolism is going to fall. With not enough sleep, I mean, you're not producing enough protective hormones. So this is going to damage everything, your cognitive abilities, your emotions. I mean, you're screwed up emotionally and mentally during this state. Obviously, you still push through. You were spending time with her, which is terrible. Going through all of that, having all these stabbing chest pains, you said. You know, you're a young guy as well. So you really need to prioritize your health, because it's really going to limit how much you can really enjoy and cherish your relationships. He said she was always comforting me, and I could see in her eyes that she would sometimes have a few tears seeing how much agony I was in. It was so heartwarming to even think about. So that's fine. You know, she's taking care of you. So far seems good. You know, she's with you, but she's by your side, which is what you want to see. But he says something else to add here, which it will be clearer later on, is that we only had sex once the entire holiday. He said I was in zero mood or energy and barely functioned as a human. Yeah, because your health is screwed up. But from here on, we planned how to actually start to live together. We were sure of each other, made promises that we would stick through thick and thin, no matter what happened. She always wanted to move to Thailand, but eventually agreed to work and save money in Europe would be better. So we planned to live together in Belgium, work for a few years, then move to a warmer country. The only problem was, how would she get a good job here? Well, traditionally speaking, if you want to be the leader, the man of the house, in the long run, if she wants to be a wife and a mum, you should find a way to make enough money to where she doesn't have to worry about that. Initially, up until you're married, she can help out, that's fine. But you need to obviously sort yourself out too financially. Because this is where feminism comes in, and it's poisoned men, it's poisoned women. We've been raised in a culture of feminism, which has done a lot of damage to male to female dynamics. And, a lot of men want to point the finger and say women aren't feminine anymore. A lot of women have to pick up the tab because men aren't doing their duty. And, that's a problem. So she's applying for a job, and that's fine. She gets a job initially, but in the long run, if she's working long hours, it's going to affect her hormones. If she's having to work outside the home, women are not built for that hormonally, because they're on a 30-day cycle and it goes up and down. Us men, we're on a 24/7 testosterone cycle. We peak in the morning, we dip at the end of the day, which is we're built for work. We're built for handling that stress. We have a high tolerance for it. Women aren't. Women are softer like that. And the more a woman is pushed with a lot of heavy work, it's going to affect her mentally and emotionally. So that's something to consider for the future with the next woman you have in your life. Get your finances right so you can take care of her and give her a good life. And at the very least, take away the burden of worrying about financial stress. But it's always good to have a good woman by your side when you're building yourself up. It's a good way to test it, to know, is she really genuine? Is she with me as I'm building the career or business? Or does she only want me when I'm a finished product? Because you don't want a woman like that either. Be mindful of that too. Regardless, he says she couldn't really get a visa there because she was in Belgium, and they didn't give it to her because she doesn't speak Dutch. So instead she got a master's degree, and he paid for it. He offered to pay half of the total cost, 6,000 euros. And I told her if we ever broke up, she'd owe it back to me. But she said, "What do you mean? I'm coming to be with you. We will never break up." She was annoyed, but later agreed that yes, anything could happen, so she agreed. And he says that she's currently still paying it off as she signed the documents. Fair enough. September comes, she arrives here, and her student dorm is about an hour and a half away from my home. I'm in the middle of starting my business, but we agreed to meet each other a whole weekend every 2 weeks. We planned this long before she would be very busy with her masters. I still suffered from insomnia, so I would often go to bed at 1 a.m. and not get out of bed till 4 p.m. So yeah, your sleep schedule's completely ruined. He says the first 2 times we met weren't as great as I was sleep deprived and I couldn't give her a lot of love and affection. And she told me, I really want to have sex. I've been here for 4 days already and I won't ask anymore. She obviously liked you, she wanted you, and she wanted to be intimate. Again, you don't have Christian values, and I would be very careful with this, because when you have sex with someone you're not married to, it puts on blinders. You're going to be blinded to the red flags, if there are any, or lack of compatibility, or lack of desire. Why? Because you're bonding chemically, you're being intimate. And you might think, but Christian, you just said, what if there's a lack of genuine desire and we're obviously having sex so she likes me? There's people out there with a high body count and they sleep around and they think you look cute, but they're still promiscuous. They obviously desire you, but there's something that's lacking there. The reason why I'm saying that is because women can struggle with lust too. You want her to want you physically, to desire you, but have a lust in check to know that sex is something sacred. It's for love, it's for bonding, it's for intimacy. It's not to use the other person as masturbation, as a sex object. When you get deep into porn addiction or anything erotic, or your lust is out of control with fantasy and all this stuff, and especially when your health is screwed up and your stress hormones are high, sex is often a release. It's not for love. And that's where a lot of young people get it wrong. And they stay in these relationships that are long past the expiration date because, oh, the sex is good. Be very careful with that. So you want a woman that, yes, she understands that she should desire you, she should want you, which is good. But she also understands that, yeah, she understands the value of sex. She knows what it really means. My recent previous video was about this. You might want to give that one a look. But then dumb me thought to myself, she wouldn't ask me more, so that's not important. Well, in a way, you're neglecting her needs. But he said she still cooked, massaged me, she did all these different naughty favors for me, and I barely returned anything. Well, again, you go to a relationship to give, and all you're doing is taking. And eventually to her, it's going to form a pattern that this is who you are. You take, you're not giving her much back. He says she didn't make it clear that she craved something from me besides the sex. Communication was her only issue. She may not be communicating well, but you're also not listening well enough because you're blind to her needs. You're neglecting her. Her telling you, hey, I want to be intimate with you, there's always something deeper there. She wants to feel your love. She wants to feel your presence. She wants to feel connected to you. She doesn't just want to use you. She wants your love, and you're not giving it to her. Women always tell you and they show you, when they like you, how to open them up, how they want to be treated. When a girl stops putting in the effort to communicate with you, when she was originally, that's because of you. You have to work 10 times harder to open her back up. But obviously in this case, she does have communication issues, which is true. So that's also have to be factored in to your equation here. But she always wanted to go out with me, he says, go to the city, go do stuff. He says that's normal, I suppose. Since the start, she always wanted to take pictures of herself in beautiful scenes. He says, I reckon that is also normal, especially for a girl that's never left her country before. Yeah, if they're modest and they're cute, there's nothing wrong with that, unless it's something immodest, right? She was also nagging me for an entire evening about some Thai girl that followed me on a fake account on Instagram. She was a girl that I spoke to before I started dating her. Later, I found out that she was right, and this girl was indeed still stalking me 2 years later. I didn't get the fuss, but I reaffirmed her high level of attraction and love for me, since you were so jealous that someone was potentially preying on me. 2 months passed, and I noticed that the communication dropped slightly. This is something you want to pay attention to. Remember, when a woman loves you, she wants your attention, she wants your affection and your presence all the time. So when you're away from each other, she's going to look for ways to remain connected to you. Texting you, calling you, sending you little voice notes throughout the day. Maybe sending you a few pictures of what she's up to. She's doing that because she wants to feel your presence. She wants to remain bonded to you in your absence. When a woman stops doing that, it's either due to external problems outside of your relationship, things that are affecting her, things maybe she shouldn't be doing, or internally, you and her are both having problems. You're not treating her well, she feels disconnected from you, so she starts to pull away. If you're doing everything right in a relationship, your woman should never be disconnected. She should always want you. And when you see a dip in the connection, in the communication, that should signal alarm bells for you. He says she was very busy in uni and genuinely looked depressed, but I didn't think much of it. Big problem. You were depressed, you have a lot of anxiety, and she stuck by you. Now she's depressed, you should have looked into it. Hey honey, what's going on? That's where you sit down with your girl and you open her up. Hey baby, what's going on? Tell me. You look a little bit sad. Even if she says, no, it's nothing, it's fine, get her to talk, get her to open up. Keep pushing until she lets everything out. That's how you do it. Whether it takes you 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or 2 hours, push until you get her to open up. I bought her supplements and proposed to go to a doctor together to make sure she's okay. Unfortunately, a lot of these medications that they pull out nowadays, they ruin your hormones even more. They mess you up emotionally. Always seek natural remedies first. She told me she's fine every time I asked if there was something. So you asked her once or twice, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. And then you go back to your own thing. Wrong. You could sense something was off. Don't ignore that gut feeling. That's when you dig deeper. Continuing on with the email. He says, suddenly she dumps me out of the blue after a minor fight where I noticed one of her red flags that I've been seeing lately. It always amazes me when guys say this. She dumped me suddenly, as if, well, you can always see the signs if you know what you're doing. He says that what he saw lately was that she was deleting her profile picture together on multiple platforms, as well as a picture we had together on her Instagram. So she's slowly removing him from her life. And this was probably going on for some time, but due to his health problems and his own issues, he was too wrapped up in his own problems to notice these things until it got really bad. Then when he's like, wait a minute, why she stopped communicating? He looks back and sees all these things were happening. There's always signs with this happening, guys. You know, women don't just wake up randomly and say, you know what, I'm going to dump him today. It's either a breakdown of trust and respect, or she's realized that there's a lack of desire, lack of compatibility, whatever happens to be, over time, and she's waited and said, fine, that's it, I'm out. Or you have to have done something very specific and painful that makes her remove herself. And this is how it happens. Women do not dump men they're in love with. Same thing goes for us guys. We don't just dump a woman we're in love with, do we? It doesn't work that way. You always have to pay attention to her emotional attraction level. Look at what you're doing, what you're saying. How is she receptive to that? Then looking at what she's saying. Looking at what she is doing. How is that proceeding? This is where guys get it wrong. Oh, I've got the girl, she's with me, We're in a relationship. She's not going anywhere. You're not married. You don't have kids. We're boyfriend, girlfriend. You're still waiting to see where that goes. And as you guys are going to see in a little bit further in the email, exactly where he went wrong. So she tells him there was no love on her part. She says, I feel nothing. But just 2 months ago, he says, we were talking about having children, moving out, all the good stuff. The love was still there. Yeah, to you, not to her. But now she tells me she's got 0 feelings left. I couldn't make any sense of it. So I pleaded and asked why. I cried in front of her, brought her flowers, made a picture collage of our moments together, and I asked for another chance. She says, no, I can't change. And the reasons for her breaking up were lack of intimacy, lack of passion and attention. She felt alone and abandoned because I didn't visit or show that I cared enough, and she was in my country now. I didn't understand why she could not have just communicated these problems rather than just tell me out of the blue. Because she did try and communicate with her actions. But you, as you said throughout the email, you didn't really give back. Every time you spent time with her, you weren't present. Fine, you were sick, you had insomnia, you were falling asleep, you couldn't be intimate with her, you couldn't be passionate. So you were disconnected yourself. So every time she tried to connect with you over those years, slowly but surely, you were disconnecting to the point where she had to disconnect as well because there's nothing else to connect to. You weren't intimate. And from what she said, lack of passion and attention, you weren't giving her love. And it's evident in the fact that now that she dumps you, now you want to give her a picture collage. Now you want to buy her flowers. Those are things you should have been doing in your relationship. Throughout your relationship is when you surprise her with flowers or a gift, or you take her somewhere nice, or you romance her, or you give her a sweet compliment, right? You kiss her, you spin her around, you tease her, you flirt with her. Most guys don't do this. You think, I've got the girl, I don't need to do those things anymore. You were not making her feel special. And a woman knows when a man loves me, he treats me right. He makes time for me. He dates me. He plans fun things. He wants me to spend quality time with him. He's going to romance me. He's going to seduce me, right? You're not doing those things. Her reasons are valid. And especially since she came all the way across the world to be with you from a different culture. And I don't believe in dating someone from a different culture. I've made that very clear in my recent videos. Very rare exceptions where it works out. But she made all that effort to come see you, and then you just disconnect. So again, she did try and communicate those things. Hey, be intimate with me. I'm here for 4 days. I won't ask anymore. And you were like, oh, she's not going to ask anymore. Great. You were not looking deeper. She wanted love. You weren't giving it to her. You weren't making her feel safe. Continuing on, he said, I kept trying and she started to kiss me on 2 different occasions following the breakup. It didn't make sense. He said she was still clearly physically attracted at least. Well, yeah, physical attraction is a precursor to emotional attraction. And when someone dumps you, your looks don't change physically. It's how you made them feel emotionally. It's the emotional attraction, the trust, the connection, the intimacy. That's what changes. You know, she's still going to think you're a handsome guy. It's just emotionally, she doesn't feel that bond anymore. It's broken. But one more night I pleaded, but I noticed some guy called her 4 times. I asked, who's that? Just a friend from uni. Of course. I checked her Instagram when I arrived home, and I noticed the guy liking all of her pics on 2 of his accounts. It's just a friend. That's the favorite line I hear. On his main and his private account, and I drove up to her 2 days later and grabbed her phone. I found out she was already flirting with him just a month after she arrived here. And for goodness sake, it's a guy from France and he's not even from a uni or anything, he says. She admitted she met this guy on the same dating app we did, which she turned on and off briefly. And this is where the big part comes. After she found me texting a girl a year ago. He says, which to me was just pornography, which we agreed upon during our long distance relationship. I realized this was a mistake by me, but after all, it was just one text saying send nudes. No conversation or anything. And that's where you were wrong, Niels. It's not just an after all, it's just a text situation. You emotionally betrayed her first. Watching pornography, lusting after naked women that are not your woman. And when you're with her in person, she finds that you texted a girl saying send nudes. You can't justify it by saying no conversation or anything. Imagine if you caught her texting a guy, send nudes, no conversation or anything. All of a sudden, it doesn't feel very good, does it? So as you guys can see, his porn addiction was the downfall. Yes, he had his financial issues, which led to more health problems, but he says his porn had damaged his brain so much, he couldn't even enjoy certain things. And this changes the way you see women. And then you're in a relationship and you think it's normal to lust after other women. If you love her, you wouldn't do that to her. So you have to think how she feels. She comes all the way from Thailand to be with you. And guess what? After all these years, she catches you texting a girl saying send nudes. So that's really where she started to check out of the relationship. Now, obviously, in your defense, she should have just said to you, Niels, what you did to me is wrong. I can't trust you anymore for sending this to another woman because you want to see another woman naked. I'm done. Goodbye. But she didn't. She chose to stay, maybe give you a chance, but she lost trust for you. And in her mind, she obviously thought, this guy's not loyal if he's texting her a girl saying send nudes. Why should I be? Which is still wrong on her end. She could have walked away. She was probably hurt and chose to do it that way. So she cheated on you too, which is wrong. You cheated emotionally by watching porn and sending that to a girl. She went a little step further by actually getting close physically to another guy and texting him and obviously spending time with him and meeting another guy on an app. She took it a step further, yes. But you're really both to blame there. So, again, for the guys watching, if you really love your woman, you shouldn't even want to look at another woman in person, let alone text a girl, send nudes or watch porn or anything like that. How would you feel if your girl was watching some Magic Mike show or reading 50 Shades of Grey or lusting after another actor or celebrity? You'd feel disrespected. And you can use any excuse you want about porn. And I know a lot of people who are young, they get into a relationship and a lot of girls see their boyfriends doing that. They think it's normal. It's not. It damages you, damages how you bond. And take it as a blessing. You can use your time now when you're single to heal, to stop watching pornography and give your brain, and your dopamine system a much needed recovery so that you can change the way you see women. Because it's not honorable. Pornography, it's designed to corrupt men. You think it's not a problem until, what if that was your sister, if you had a sister, or your daughter, or your girlfriend, or your wife, or your mother, and other men are jerking off to her? All of a sudden, it's not so funny. It's disgusting, isn't it? That's the attitude you have to have. That's the woman of another man's family in that position. And half of those girls are trafficked into that industry. I'm sure the other half are just promiscuous and they enjoy the lifestyle. But regardless, every time you view that material, you're actively participating in keeping that business up and running. Supply and demand, so stop, because it's bad. And speaking to him on the call, this is the moment where he said he noticed her first start pulling back. When she caught him texting that girl saying send nudes, that's when she distanced herself even more from him. And it makes sense. But regardless, he says, so again, that was her reason. She admitted she met this guy soon after you texted that girl. He says, anyways, this is the moment I decided to no longer plead And especially since she said cheating is the worst, she'd never do it or leave permanently. Well, she didn't really keep her word there, did she? But she built up an entire emotional connection with this guy behind my back for who knows how long. She claims 1.5 months after arriving here. So he said maybe around mid-October, which was, at this time, we were around mid-November. He said, I find that weird as I found she was texting the guy the picture she was taking in more suggestive clothing the week before. But now it all made sense. In the caption of the picture, she also wrote, "Don't fall in love with me, baby." And I remember she sent me the same pictures with the caption, "Don't fall in love with me." So obviously you didn't vet this girl properly, and she has very clear red flags. And Niels leaves a list here of some red flags that he later on saw or ignored, or just had a general knowledge gap and didn't know. Because oftentimes when you yourself have red flags, you don't even know it's a red flag in the other person, especially with porn addiction and all these things. And all the red flag means is that, for the men and women watching, that the person you are with at the current state they're at, they are not suitable for marriage. They don't have the correct values to be a good husband, wife, father, or mother. They either have wounds from their past or their childhood, or a lack of knowledge gap that does not make them a suitable candidate. And they can often display dangerous behavioral traits and characteristics that make them someone, sometimes even toxic, to be around, which is why you have to protect yourself accordingly and vet from the beginning. This is why masculine men with the right information, who understand relationships, they accurately vet a woman from a logical, sound mind from the get-go, with no lust involved. That's why no hookups, no sleeping around, nothing. No sex, no nothing, no intimacy, because it blinds you to who the other person may be if you peel back the layers. This is why you have to ask quality questions from the beginning. And more importantly, you have to have your values right. Because you can sit there and talk with her about you want marriage and you want kids, but you're jerking off and watching other women naked on a screen. Maybe you only did that during long distance when you were with her and you stopped when you were together. But if you don't change your ways and your values, and you're not yourself, you don't display the qualities of a husband, of a father, and you haven't built that up first, how are you going to recognize if she had the qualities of a wife or a mother? It takes one to know one. So in this case, mutual red flags, porn addiction, health problems, and of course, monkey branching on her end. But you have to take accountability for you, because again, this video is for you, to give you an answer to your case study and help you move forward, learn from your mistakes, and prepare yourself for marriage to really be a good husband and a good father. So again, he says, she's the last person I'd expect she'd ever do this. She was always following, caring, sweet, never dared to raise her voice, insisted cheating is the worst, and generally introverted. You didn't vet her properly. I know this because I've seen all the case studies I've done over the years, and when I was younger, I think I was vetting women properly, and then I realized later that I wasn't. That's why when I met my wife, I did things differently. I sat down, I really took my time to learn and master relationships over the years, that's why I teach men how to vet, court, and how to master relationships righteously, meaning the right way, according to God's blueprint. Because when you do it the right way and you have the correct information, you learn that when you meet a woman online or in person from a few phone calls or a few dates, when you get really good at this stuff, you can practically tell whether she is suitable for marriage or not without investing 6 months or 3 years of your life like this from the beginning, so that you can make a sound decision which gives you clarity to either dump her because there's red flags, incompatibility, or lack of genuine desire, or if you have assessed that you do have those ingredients, attraction, chemistry, compatibility, no red flags, that now it's safe for you to actually move forward, and you will want to marry and commit to her, and you will see the same in her attitude towards you. Once you have that assurance that you can vet a woman and know with 100% certainty that she's safe to marry, you're set for life. Now you can teach this to your sons and daughters. You can be better for your community because you've got a godly woman by your side. And a lot of guys underestimate a woman's influence. Genesis 2:18 tells us in the Bible, it's not good that a man should be alone. God has made a helpmeet suitable for us. When we saw Satan deceive Adam, he used Eve to then deceive him. See, a good woman is going to be a great influence. She's going to help you in your business, in your career, in your goals and your ambition. She's going to be by your side. She's going to inspire you and push you to greater heights. But an immoral woman, a bad woman, she's going to bring in bad habits. She's going to tear you down. She's going to take from you. She's going to make your life miserable. Guys, you've got to choose wisely. And that's why learning this stuff is so important. You don't have to have experience and have 5 failed relationships to figure it out. It doesn't work that way. In fact, one of my clients recently, he's been a student of mine in the relationship mastery course. 23-year-old Christian guy, virgin, never had a relationship. He followed the course. He filled in his knowledge gap, learned everything I teach. He went out there on his first go, matched with a really beautiful 10 out of 10 Swedish girl. He sent all the pictures, so we got the proof. Absolutely adores him. Virgin girl, chemistry, compatibility, has it all. Even he's surprised he could do it. But because he filled in his knowledge gap. And that's how it should be. You don't have to go through 10 heartbreaks and take months and years to then heal and recover. With the right information, you don't have to go through all that pain. You can do it the right way, with assurance and confidence. That's what I teach, ultimately. I did it for myself. That's why I have the woman that I do. And it's what I teach other men to do. This is a part of your life that you want to sort out. And a lot of guys, they will invest in their health and money for business, but they won't invest in learning about relationships until they're divorced. You don't want to be that guy. So, to conclude, he's listed off some red flags that he later on saw or ignored. He says, number 1, she is said to have been hard to get and bitchy in high school, being cold to boys. Number 2, she had a lesbian relationship for 4 months, even though she claims to be heterosexual. So issues there with her sexuality and identity, lust, promiscuity. Very bad. Number 3, her parents never gave her proper love and support. She was locked to study till 9 p.m. This can cause a lot of rebellion in teenagers, and obviously it's evident in her behavior. Number 4, she kept posting pictures on Instagram, even in bikini and beachwear. So again, attention-seeking, immoral behavior. Remember, a good woman always seeks your presence, but a bad woman doesn't. She wants the attention of everyone. If your woman loves you, she respects you in person and online. She's never going to dress in a way that is going to bring attention to herself. And especially with things like that, a good woman doesn't want to post her body online. She doesn't want men to lust after her. She doesn't need to compete with other women because she's got good self-esteem. But if your ex was doing this, definitely has low self-esteem. Because, posting things like that on social media, no one needs to see. No one cares, Number 4, she had a Face app subscription while being in a relationship with me. He explained this to me. It's like an app where you can modify your appearance. And she was always into changing her looks. So she was very insecure and didn't like how she looked. And remember, if a woman is not happy with how she looks and she can't accept herself, how can she truly accept any love from you? I mentioned this when I discussed red flags in my book and in my course. Very important information. Vanity and modesty, be careful with that, men. Can't overlook that. Red flags you ignore in the beginning always become the deal breakers in the end. She never told her classmates, which were mostly boys, that she had a boyfriend. See, a good woman, if she's around men, male co-workers, male students, classmates, whatever happens to be, if she's dating you and she's proud of you, any conversation she has, she's going to mention she has a boyfriend to throw the guys off, to make sure that they should stay away. If she's not mentioning you and she's not letting it known that she's taken, she's signaling that she's open for sale. Post-breakup, I told my mother I was at fault for abandoning her and not improving my life. And she only told bad things about me and admitted no fault of her own, even communication. Well, she's not taking accountability. Good job you found out now. Imagine being married to her. She would never take responsibility for her behavior. It's not a good sign. Fair enough if she told her mum that you texted those things to that girl, and I know you obviously did good things. You still took her out. You still made an effort to see her. Obviously, you could have done a lot of things better, but her going out of her way to monkey branch on you with some guy from France, she shouldn't have to do that. She could have just walked away, as she said she would, if something like that were to happen. She never trusted me blindly, even though I was mostly home, which I always trusted her. Well, that's not really a red flag. I can understand if she didn't trust you after you texting that girl, but if she never trusted you from the beginning, then there's also something wrong from her end. And yes, that would be a red flag. We're nearly done with the case study. I'm going to wrap up with his red flags. He admits his mistakes. He says, things I should have fixed and I think contributed to the breakup. The text that I sent to the hoe, you shouldn't call her that. The text you sent to that girl, she might assume that I do this often to other girls. Fair enough, it's true. If I was a woman and you did that to me, I would assume the same. I mean, if you caught her sending that to some guy, would you not assume the same? He says, I wasn't battling insomnia enough. I kept letting it rule me, waking up late afternoons. Yeah, you had no get up and go. And you got to remember, if a woman desires you, like you've got the chemistry, you've got the compatibility, if she sees, emotionally speaking, that you have drive, that you have direction, that you push through your challenges, that you're willing to stand up and try and just take any action to help yourself, that's when she's going to assist you. A woman's femininity, to a degree, is going to be limited by how masculine or not you are, which is why the more confidence, the more masculinity that you display, the more feminine she's going to be. Because masculinity grows through challenge and adversity, whereas femininity grows through praise and affection, right? So when you do hard things and you challenge yourself and you push, she's going to respect you more. She's going to inspire you more. She's going to admire you more and show you that and tell you that, which keeps a feedback loop that's positive, that you keep being masculine because she's treating you like a man now because you're acting like one. Well done. And what does this do in return? You praise her for her support, for her softness, for her kindness, for her femininity, for how sweet she is and how loving she is, which that praise that you give her, it makes her feel warm. Oh, he loves me. Oh, he appreciates me. I'm seen, I'm heard. I feel understood. And with women, when they feel heard and understood emotionally, their legs open. When they don't, they close. So even with that, it's a positive feedback loop, but it starts with you leading. Man leads first, woman follows after. When you're masculine and you're doing what you need to do, that's when you can bring her up by your side. And she sees you're taking care of business. That's what she wants to see. She wants you to be a champion, a leader. You keep your word. The more trust there is, the more intimacy there is. And when she sees you being weak and being cowardly, sure, for some time your girl's going to help you and support you. But if she sees that you don't take anything to help you, do anything to help yourself, she's going to start to see that you're not the man she thought you were. And that's just facts. He said, I never prioritized taking care of her when she arrived in Belgium all alone. Absolutely. You weren't romancing her, you weren't taking the stress away from her, so to speak. He says, I did not remain in my masculine frame at all. I was too open about my anxiousness. There's nothing wrong with you mentioning that you have anxiety. It's how you handle it. If you have a bad day, say, you know what, babe, I'm in a bad place. I lost a lot of money trading. It has affected me. But you know what? I'm going to find a solution. I'm going to try and get myself out of this mess. That's all she wants to hear, that you're handling it. He says, I didn't show my motivation for my business. I was always pessimistic. Yeah, even if things are negative, you have to put a positive spin. It's attractive when you show humor, when you show confidence, you show courage. That's what you got to do. Often I would tell her I'd pick up the gym, but I never did and stayed skinny and untrained. Yeah, you want to take care of your health. In fact, fixing a lot of your health problems would have definitely made you more masculine. And you probably would have caught more of her bad behavior, and you might have been the one to dump her. He says, my life has turned out to change for the better since the breakup, as this was my first and only real love. In hindsight, it was probably the best thing that happened to me financially and physically, but I'm not sure if I can find this type of love again. That wasn't even good love. You can find so much better. Because even with the mistakes you made, let's say you never watched porn. Let's say you never lusted after another girl and you didn't send nudes to that chick. If you did everything right, the fact that she was attention seeking online, posting inappropriate pictures of her body on social media, she wouldn't communicate and she'd shut down, right? The fact that she had all the issues with her sexuality and things like that, those issues would have come out. And because your standards would have been stronger then, you would have said, screw this, I don't deserve this, and you would have walked away. You need to raise your standards. Because a lot of guys claim they have a standard, but then I look at the woman they're with, and that's the standard they have. Because if you really had a stronger values, that's what you would aspire to, and that's what you would get. So your current standards, what you currently have in your life is a reflection of your actual standards. Because if you really wanted better, you'd find a way to get it, or you'd be on the way to achieving it. So you have to raise your standards. And I guarantee you, because you said you bought the book, just reading the book alone will raise your standards. Going through my content will raise your standards. But don't cherry pick. Is she dismissive or fearful avoidant? I'd say more dismissive. She pushes things away. She shows a lot of stability when she's calm and confident, when her needs are being taken care of, which is normal. But you also did push her away a lot. And look, she had her own issues too, okay? Will she eventually regret and miss me, or does she already shut herself off? Look, nobody moves on quickly after 3 years, but most people in such cases, if they're the one dumping you, they usually dump you when there are no feelings left. So she probably checked out a long time ago, and she dumped you when there was no feelings left, which is pretty what she said. So she probably lost feelings a long time ago, but obviously to a certain degree, she's still going to have memories and miss that, but that will fade. And he says, I'm trying to understand how a warm girl that always needed attention and wanted to talk daily for hours can turn stone cold and not care at all so quickly. She never apologized or never shed a tear during the breakup process, whereas before she was sticky, warm, sweet, cuddly and emotional. Yeah, because at first you were treating her well. At first things were going good. And when you stopped taking care of her needs, you checked out of the relationship and focused on your own problems. That's when she started to lose interest. That's why she became cold. And that happened for such a long time. She just lost feelings for you. Sure, you can apologize, but you've got to stop reaching out to her, which you say you tried to do. Delete her and block her from everything, move on, heal, fill in your knowledge gap, and you will find better. But you have to be better first, because you do get what you are. So with that said, that's been the case study. For those watching, I'd love to hear your comments down below. And if you'd like to learn more about what I teach and support what I do, you can join my Relearning Relationship community. The link's down below in the description. You can purchase my book, link down below, or you can sign up to the Relationship Mastery course. The link to my website is there. You can learn more information. With that said, hope you'll have a wonderful day. God bless all of you and your families. I'll see you all in the next one.